All right. Welcome everyone to another full moon edition video here with Kaylin Castell, myself, Erik Roth, part of My Star Alchemy. And we're going to be bringing you the magic and wisdom of the stars through this upcoming full moon in the month of April in Libra. This is all about healing the wounds of chaos and crafting healthy relationships. So this is the third full moon video that we've done in the series, and more to come after this. So I'm just excited to get into this because April itself is just a really powerful month, and the full moon is definitely a very significant part of it. Oh, I don't know, Caitlin, did we? I don't think we created a slide for this, but this is the same day that Venus goes direct.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true. And I can't remember if we did or not either. So,
right. But we'll just
hey, with all this
call
retrograde, it's hard
attention.
to keep track.
Yeah, it is. So just so for everyone's awareness, we're not ignoring Venus. She's really critical in all of this, and she's gone direct on this day, on the day of this Libra full moon. So really powerful day for the world.
Yes. So, something to just keep in mind is how Libra, the archetypal energy of Libra itself, is about relationships with ourselves and each other, our relationship with life, our relationship to our partners, our relationship to our family, our relationship to our community. So not just and with ourselves. So if we have a healthy relationship with ourselves, then all those other relationships will be healthy. And then the other thing we can look at with this full moon is how valuing all the places around the wheel or circle of life. So if we think about the circle, or say the round table as another way we could talk about it, is everybody has a specific point of view sitting around the circle. And what I see, and what I love about doing this with you, Eric, is what I see is maybe not something you've seen, and what you see is something I haven't seen. So we get to bring that together. And this is the whole idea of Libra is co-creation, collaboration, cooperation, to be able to do that together. So I love this quote from Helen Keller. She says, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And that is such a Libra perspective. And then Rollo May says, "Communication leads to community. That is to understanding, intimacy, and mutual valuing." And so the idea is that each person in the relationship, whether it's a community relationship or a more personal relationship with another person or family, everybody has equal value. They have different skills they bring, they have different ways of maybe showing up and participating, but they're valued equally. So important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What and thank you for bringing this up. I mean, this is for humanity in this polarized world that we live in. It's we couldn't stress enough the importance of a Libra full moon in this way because it's about really honoring the wheel and the whole wheel and people's healthy contributions to all of this. And what's also fascinating, like in the sky here, what you got a picture of the sky here, Kaylin, is the cup is here. Um, and that cup, like I think of the round table and the Knights of the Round Table and the search for the Holy Grail, that there's something, I don't know, it looks like there's a significant connection there, perhaps
And
when
then
it comes to Libra and the circle and the Holy Grail being this sense of this greater you know connection to the earth, the land, the feminine, the even the water, all that is of life, and sipping from it and getting that sense of greater wholeness and balance within us, between the masculine and the feminine. So this certainly is plays a role in that too.
I love that you brought that up, and also just that the moon is just on the horizon in the star map, so you get to see it with Spica. We're going to talk about this as we go through all of it, but just so you can see that sense of how the when the moon is rising, what are the stars that are with the moon? This full moon is pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you included that. I was like, oh yeah, there's that cup that's there.
We're going to talk
So
about that
this
more
is
too.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So this is just kind of a display of the chart. Now, we have another chart that has some more of the points on there. I don't include everything in here, but It's giving you a greater understanding of like where this takes place at 23 degrees, 19 minutes of Libra. And the sun, of course, will be opposite 2319 Aries, sitting right between Chiron, very close to Chiron, and then less than 2 degrees away from Eris, which we're going to talk about. Um, and then there's the stellium here in Pisces that's still forming. So this has been a big theme for March and April of the stelliums in Aries and in Pisces. So it's like one huge like mega stellium that's been going on, crossing over the 29th degree of Pisces into the 0 degree of Aries. And so Aries, kind of anchors us in a little bit here with the sun being there, but then Libra comes up. It shows up in a big way as like a almost some new energies, like all this Aries Pisces, but then boom, we have Libra coming in a big manner here.
I love
And then go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go ahead.
Oh yeah, just as an awareness piece, later in the month, I think it's the 17th of April, where there is a Pluto Mars opposition. I think it might be a little bit later than the 17th, but somewhere in that zone. But it's something worth noting that towards the middle to late of part of the month of April, there's that actually forms. But at this point, they're only about 6 degrees apart from the opposition. So that energy is still sort of present in this Libra full moon going on here.
And this will be the third Mars Pluto opposition, the first having been in December, and then I think there was another one in January, and this is the last
Yes.
time they're coming into opposition since Mars went direct back in February, and we'll finally be catching up to where Pluto is. So, and the first one was in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius, and then the middle one was Mars was in Cancer, and oh, no, I guess it was right before Mars went back into Cancer, and it was opposite.
Right.
Yeah, so it's all been in this Leo Aquarius energy, and and we could imagine that perhaps Pluto shining a light on where there may be this shadow side of Leo, Mars and Leo. Like, I'm the king, I'm the one who can tell you what to do, and you must do what I say.
That
But
never happens.
that's not the essence of Leo. Leo is like when you're really healthy and you really have that sense of great self-love from a healthy place, not a narcissistic place, because you're actually not really feeling like you're that good and you have to try to prove to everybody that you are. That's more the shadow side, but it's like Leo wants everyone to shine with them. So
Hmm.
this is an amazing opportunity for the sacred masculine energy that's within us to be in that place of shining a light of love, um, that and uplifting us, around us. So really, with it being so close in opposition most of the month of April, I feel like that energy is very prominent.
Oh yeah, I love that, and the fact that Mars also trines all the Pisces energy here, and that there's something going on, particularly with Saturn and the North Node. And then there is a square to the alignment of the full moon. So Mars and Pluto more loosely squares this, but still there's Mars lends another spark of energy here in this case in Cancer, but as it's going to be it's the 17th is when it moves into the sign of Leo. And then I think it's the following week, 26th of April, when there's the actual opposition, if I'm remembering correctly. 'Cause I did an April video and I'm trying to remember the dates of all those things. But something like that. And so, yeah, Caitlin is right on with all of this. And the self-love and inspiring and inspiring people to be their powerful selves, to be their selves and be able to contribute to the world in a healthy, soulful way, that conscious way. So that's where Leo can shine the brightest, and this is the possibility of a transformation is here is in this opposition between Leo and
And
between
then
the
the
Leo
Libra
Mars.
full moon and the Libra about relation, how we can accomplish so much more together. And so when Leo's really healthy, it's like I don't have to be in charge of everybody and make everybody do what I want, but I can uplift everybody to shine with me, and we can accomplish so much more together than we could on our own. So that this Libra full moon is also energizing that possibility.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. We'll have another chart. There's like another chart I think you bring up, Kaylin, and that you've got we're going to look at too. So I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Um, and yeah, go for it.
So this is a chart like a map of the sky at the time the moon is rising. We saw a little bit of that in the first slide that we had, and it's showing the moon at 25 Libra as it's rising that evening. And then with Spica, the star Spica, very bright star, 24 Libra. We're going to talk more about that too as we go along, talk about the star Spica. You can see the constellation of the Cup, or also known as Crater, also there. So that energy, as Erik beautifully brought out, the Holy Grail energy so present with that. And if we think about the Libra mysteries, it's only for a couple thousand years that the sign of Libra is overlaying the constellation of the priestess, so that these energies would be seen. But if we think of Libra as representing the circle of life, so how is it that we are all in this together? We're all equal in what we have, value we have to bring, even though we bring different things to the table. So pretty cool. And then Venus is also stationing direct. I don't think we see her here. No.
Well, I know that in the previous slide, it does show her on the chart
At
here.
24 Pisces, yes, it's
Yeah.
just at the station direct point at the time of the full moon. But if we go another, I think another one, maybe. Nope. Well,
Here?
it'll show up. It'll show up eventually. But Venus is stationing direct with a star called Marcab in the constellation of Pegasus. And this is
Uh,
happening at the same time as the full moon. And so Venus is right there for a while, for a few days before and after the exact station point. And it's activating the Merkaba, or the Merkaba, depending on how people choose to pronounce that, that's within us. So that divine feminine energy being activated, and as we were looking at how Mars and Pluto are also part of this full moon, and then Venus is there with Saturn in the North Node and Mercury and all of that. So pretty exciting energies all coalescing, coming together to co-create a powerful opportunity for us in how we want to move forward in our relationship to ourselves and each other.
yeah, absolutely. And you can see up here for everyone, there's Mars near the top of the screen. And so as the full moon is rising, Mars will be roughly close to the top of the sky along the ecliptic, there right between the crab and the twins, or just kind of at the edge of the twins there, as it's about to move into the sign of Leo. And then way up and closer to the western horizon is Jupiter, which is really still super bright at currently at that time at 18 Gemini.
So something you can see in the evening sky, so you can see as the moon's rising. Hopefully, if it's dark enough, you'll be able to see those planets in the sky. And also, just a brief mention, and maybe some at some point, Erik, you and I will do a video on the sacred hoop of stars. But Jupiter's inside the sacred hoop, getting ready to cross the exact center point of the sacred hoop when it moves into
Um,
Cancer on June 7th. And then Mars has just exited the sacred hoop where it's been for many, many months. It's been amazing to
yes.
watch how, the stars, Castor and Pollux, and then Mars was with them, and then it backed away from them, and now it's getting ready to move past them. And so we highly encourage people to go out and look at what are the stars and what are the planets and where are the planets and what's the message coming through for you around this.
Yeah. And I think it's is it doing this again? Because at one time it was Mars was lined up with Castor and Pollux like Orion's belt.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it does,
And
but it's probably not on the time at the time of the full moon. I think it's a few days before.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time of this recording on March 31st, 2025, it's near that area. So the month of April, you'll even if it's a little bit off, you'll see what we're talking about if you see the lineup where and Orion is not far from there. You can see Orion is very prominent in the sky right now in the evening sky. So you'll get to see Orion and Orion's belt with Betelgeuse and Rigel as part of this. In fact, yeah, and of course, where Orion's hand comes in, that's the solstice point where Caitlin was talking about, where Jupiter will come in early June and cross over into the sign of Cancer.
Yep. Pretty
All
exciting.
right. Yes. All right. Now the other chart we were promising.
Yes. So you see the Eris. So in the circle, the red circle, Eris is at the top, then the Sun, then Chiron, then the descendant, then Neptune, then Mercury, North Node, Saturn, Venus, and Ceres as an asteroid. Also, so there it's bookended by these two asteroids. Well, actually, Eris is a dwarf planet. And and as Eric mentioned earlier, the Sun, Chiron, and Eris are square Mars in Capricorn. I mean in Cancer, and then widely square Pluto, and then trine and at Mars is trine all of that Pisces energy, so it's activating um, in a more gentle way. What kind of action will we take in this Piscean energy as well as with all this Aries active energy happening? And so, if we think about it, a couple days later, Eris is going to be exactly conjunct the sun on April 14th. And that happens every year. And in fact, next year it'll be also April 14th because Eris is going to go retrograde and it's going to make its little dance. And by the time we get back to April 14th, 2026, it's going to be April 14th that the sun is there with Eris. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about how Chiron is conjuncting Eris three times this year, and these are the dates: May 26th, October 8th, and then March 19th of 2026. And so that those are significant to pay attention to, and that literally means that Chiron and Eris are dancing pretty close together until next year. And so if Eris is about chaos and discord, and Chiron's about healing, how are we healing the wounds of chaos and discord, and the tendency we have to reject those experiences? But it's without chaos, we don't get a new world. We don't get something new to come in. So we can see that things look pretty chaotic on the planet right now, in so many different ways. It's not just the politics; though that's very chaotic. But it's weather patterns and crazy other things that are going on that are creating this chaos. And so, how do we welcome that and be with that so that we can heal within ourselves the parts of ourselves that want to resist that, and make it come back into order more quickly, but just allow it to have the process it needs to have, and to just be with it, be in relationship with it, because here we are at the Libra full moon. So something to keep in mind as we go through this time. So Mars is going to trine the North Node exact on April 11th, so the day before the exact full moon. And then it's going to trine Venus on April 6th, and Mars on or Saturn on April 4th. So these trines will have already taken place by the time we get to the full moon. And interestingly, Mars is coming back into the boundaries of the sun on April 6th. It's been out of bounds since December, and it's coming back into bounds on April 6th as well. So we've been in this out of bounds time with the sacred masculine energy. It's like, what's it going to be like when it comes back into into bounds? It's been way out of bounds. And then Mercury will conjunct the North Node on April 10th prior to the um, exact full moon, like a couple of days prior to that. So it's still pretty close um, on the day of the full moon.
So yeah, I thank you, Caitlin. And it's like all of this, the red circle and all the arrows that are pointing to these other points, obviously including the moon, the full moon, is part of this full moon energy. It really, and this is like that's part of why it's so rare, is that this is all happening around the same time within a week or two, or even days of the full moon. So you're really getting all of that happening, and it's really powerful. But and the Aries energy itself, and I'm glad you added in more about Chiron and Eris, like the chaotic energy, the chaos itself is a like a creates a fertile ground for creativity and co-creation. And if we don't have that chaotic energy, that fertile ground, we can get stagnant and decay. But so we need that balance of chaos and order in order for us to truly grow and evolve and evolve and involve spirit moving into matter as well. So you need both of those to come through here, and that's part of what Caitlin is saying and what I'm sharing here. This is really incredible, and especially for people that have any kind of personal points or planets that are near this 23 degree of Libra. Usually I tend to give it a roughly about a 10-degree orb in that zone. You're definitely going to be in as st strongly involved in this. And of course, if you've got some things in Pisces and Aries, obviously, at some of these other points, you're definitely at the effect of, if you will, of these planetary alignments and aspects that are happening here that you get to take part in and fully participate in your life in this way.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So our opportunity is to, I mean, also if you have a lot of Aries Pisces, and especially in the later degrees, but even Neptune is at the, the 0 degree mark of Aries, having just moved into Aries for the first time in 100 and almost 65 years. Like
Yeah.
also another rare event. So all these rare events um, and so Venus is stationing direct on the day of the full moon. Mercury will have stationed direct 5 days before the full moon. So we have this also pause energy between Mercury and Venus that we can feel into and take a deeper dive with as well. And of course that's all happening in Pisces. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And more about this. I've wrote a little bit about this for the Sun Chiron conjunction with the full moon opposition. So there was like the 23-degree mark of Aries and the Sun right now at this full, not right now, but at this full moon day on April 12th. Back in 2020, this particular degree um, was activated really, really strongly by Mars during that whole crazy year as well. And Eris was only a degree and a half away from that as well. So they were like Mars was really strongly contributing to the dynamics of what was happening on the world stage. And at that time, Pluto was there in Capricorn, Mars was squaring it, Mars in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. So Eris, Mars, and Pluto played really critical roles beyond the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, which also took place in 2020. So if particularly for humanity in the 21st century. So if we're looking back at like a echo, a previous like connection, you can go back to 2020. There's other things you can go back to, sure, when you start really diving into the astrology, but this is another area a person can find themselves. So Eris and Chiron are strongly influencing this Libra moon, as Kaylin was talking about, time to recognize our wounds or fractures in relationships and others, and what and self, and what to again note what is creating the chaos and disrupting our world, but also in this conversation, this discussion, knowing that there's a need for it on some spiritual level, metaphysical level, and how can we work with that in a healthy way? How can we bring that in instead of just causing destruction like the wars that are happening in Ukraine and in Gaza and other parts of the world? How can we have a better, more healthy expression where, thousands of lives aren't being just put aside as if they weren't as if they were meaningless. So the Libra part really connects us like what are our needs? Who are we and how can we work together? Libra does invite in diplomacy. It does invite in negotiation and connection and community.
Love that. And that and this is really part of um, how are we healing the wounds of inequality that so many of us
Mm,
had the experience of in this reality. And so Chiron is helping us to, in this full moon, being so aligned with this full moon that it's important for us to maybe ask these questions like, not everybody is going to play the same role, but everybody has the same value. And how is it that we live in a world where people's value is completely dismissed and it's okay to, you know, genocide or mass kill or whatever it is that's been going on other people? It's like we're all connected, so when we're doing this to other people, we're doing it to ourselves. We
yeah,
got to stop. Yeah.
exactly. This is a perpetuation of this old, tired, and decayed pattern that no longer serves us and has no longer served us for a long time, and yet it's still being perpetuated and is causing even more destruction. Um, I mean, we could spend hours about this, but I think everybody here is listening to this understands what we're talking about here. Um, yeah, it's so. Different subject here, Sabian symbol of the Libra full moon. This one's really interesting. So, Linda Hill, she wrote her book with a lot of inspiration from Dane Rudhyar, Markham and Edmund Jones, and I can't remember the woman that was working with Mark Jones at that time off the top of my head, but she was really inspired to buy their work and to write her own as well, and crediting them for their work. But in the symbolism, every degree has a symbol. And so when you're looking at a symbol, you add one to the degree because the symbols run from 1 to 30 of a zodiac sign, and the degrees in the zodiac itself run from 0 to 29. So you're always adding one to that. So in this case, for the Libra full moon being at 2319 Libra, it moves to 24 Libra, a third wing on the left side of the butterfly. This is a really interesting symbol. She writes in the key words, creative overbalance, bodily impairments and handicaps being light, flippant, and fluttering from one thing to another, overly sensitive, oddities, imperfections, beautiful imperfections, imbalances. So kind of almost like this sense of uniqueness that wants to come through as well. And one side of the body being more perfect, quote, perfect than the other side. Now, how I interpret this in my initial like intuitive sense as I was reading this can also be about transmutations and the emergence of something new and unknown. This is like nature experimenting, attempting to evolve balance through chaos and new order. It may not be successful or it may be successful, but something unique wants to come through. And I think it's a symbol of our age, a third wing coming through. I feel like something that is showing like an attempt at creating a a state of greater balance. Because if you're looking at triangles, they're much more stable than just two other points. So that's 3 points instead of 2 points. You're seeing greater stability in that. And the number three, as Kaylin really knows very intimately, is a very, very profound number and has been throughout human history and numerable in infinite combinations and labels and things, the triple goddess being one of the more powerful ones. Um, so anyway, so this is one of the things I wanted to bring in here with this particular Sabian symbol in relation to this full moon.
I love that. I love that the triangle, the power of three. Being and it is. It's like when the two are working together, then some a third thing. gets formed uh, in a beautiful way. So that's really cool.
All right, so we're going to talk about Spica Arcturus, and Kaylin. We're going to certainly discuss this because it's also the stars that are important here too. Spica is at 2412 Libra. The full moon is at 2319 Libra, so it's just a degree away. So it's basically within about a degree of the of this particular star, and the light codes that are coming from Spica, it gets amplified during this thing. Spica symbolizes the roots of Gaia and the feminine. In ancient times, Spica was the shaft of wheat or corn being held by the earth, agricultural goddess or priestess. It shows us the critical importance of food born of the earth and taken into our bodies to sustain us. The harvest was itself an act of sacredness, honoring Gaia and her fruit. And according to Bernadette Brady's book of Fixed Stars, Spica represents a gift of brilliance, a hidden or obvious talent, skill, or ability that is out of the ordinary. The word gifted applies to strong Spica people, and whatever the star touches, it will illuminate in some way. In fact, so if someone has something in that zone within 6 degrees of that star, particularly in a conjunction, though there is some application for squares and oppositions as well, or even a trine, you could certainly connect yourself and your chart to that star Spica. And this is one of the things that, like Bernadette Brady, who writes a lot about astrology and the stars, shares in her book, in the Book of Fixed Stars there.
I like what she says because sometimes the more ancient writings of the fixed stars are dark.
They can be, yes.
Yeah, and this is like, oh yeah. So illuminating the something that's obvious, a hidden or obvious talent, but if it's hidden, to illuminate that and to then be able to bring that forth in a new way. And if we think about Spica, she is the brightest star in the constellation of the priestess, or also known as Virgo, but this is the Libra seasonal energy overlaying that constellation. So to call her the priestess, sometimes she's called the maiden. Um, anyway, this star was also a star that some ancient cultures would use when Venus was not visible in place of Venus to do their ceremonies and their activations. So with the moon right here, this is powerful. And the moon is a transmitter, so it's transmitting the light codes, as Erik was saying earlier, the light codes of this star to the earth in this full moon time. So definitely something to tune into, open to receive the messages that may be there for you that are coming through, and ask if you don't get it, if you're not getting anything, ask, what's the message for me right now?
Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So well, I should have actually put this one first, but that's okay. I just wanted to give people an understanding. Spica, you'll also see Arcturus as well, another bright star that is a little bit brighter than Spica is, but they're roughly the same degree longitudinally. And so whenever Spica rises, Arcturus is nearby, a little bit higher up in the sky. But if you see Arcturus rising, because it typically rises first, especially in the northern hemisphere, um, your Spica will be following pretty soon after that. And so those two are tied at the hip. And typically, a lot of times, Arcturus is found to represent sort of the masculine side. Um, and of course, Spica, as Kaylin shared, the feminine. So depending on the latitude, Spica is too close to the sun and may or may not be visible in the sky, depending on like the September October period. But when you see Arcturus rising, you may be able to see it even when the sun is conjunct Spica, depending on the latitude and the angle that you have where you live.
One
All
of the things
right, so
I always
go
love
ahead.
is that the if you can find the Big Dipper, and most people can find that. Also, you can use your star apps, but if you can find the Big Dipper and you see the handle of the Dipper, you arc through the handle of the dipper to Arcturus, and then drive a straight line, or they say spike to spica. So arc to Arcturus and spike to spica is one of the ways you can often use that. And it can be helpful to have that in your awareness as you're looking for these stars. And they're just so amazing to see. Arcturus and spica, love them so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. And so there's a quote here. Kaylin, you're welcome if you want to read this. Um, but Kaylin wrote about Spike and Arcturus and the relationship between the two. And so I just wrote here, Arcturus of the Buddhist constellation. Arcturus is considerably more northerly of the star and stay visible even when Spica is hidden in the glare of the sun. So Arcturus will rise, I think, yeah, I've got 45 minutes before Spica, roughly, to Arcturus to being about 30 degrees north of the ecliptic. Yeah. So, Kaylin, do you want to read this or would you like me to?
Sure.
Okay.
Spica and Arcturus are both magical Bohemian stars that work together as a feminine masculine dynamic duo in sacred relationship when we connect and work with them ceremonially, no matter what seasonal sign overlays them. So currently it's Libra, and that means, of course, they're going to work in relationship together. But at other times, like 13,000 years ago, it would have probably been 12,000 years ago, it would have been Aries overlaying that the seasonal sign of Aries overlaying the star. So it doesn't matter what seasonal sign is there. That the intent is that they're in that relationship with each other. So it just so happens that currently it's the sign of Libra that they are expressing through adding to the mysteries of conscious, co-creative, collaborative partnering. Conscious, co-creative, collaborative, and I also would add cooperative. How are they cooperating with one because we need more in the world now. These stars
Okay.
represent the sacred masculine feminine principles expressing in different ways, though again, both are equal in value. Whenever planets are with these stars, it's a great time to tune into the light codes of conscious, equal partnership that are intended to support our growth toward unity consciousness. One is not better than the other, each is connected to the greater whole. The sacred marriage, unless unites the opposites and reminds us that we are all connected to the one source of all that is. And that this is so important that this is something we tend to forget. It's how are we are all connected. So when we're doing horrible, evil things to other people, we're really doing it to ourselves. And that's something that these stars, I think, are here to remind us of. And this full moon is here to remind us of.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that for people, whether if you want to go outside and connect with this yourself, and even if you can't go out and maybe the weather conditions aren't cooperating, you can cooperate in your home where you are and connect with these energies that are present there and work with them to also help them help you and others work with this kind of consciously, co-creatively, cooperatively, and collaboratively as well. All the co's and all the
All the
healthy
COs,
co's,
yes.
yes, are right there. So yeah, we could do this, and the the sky, the earth, like the knowledge, the energy is there for all of us. That you don't need to have a doctoral degree to access this stuff here.
Exactly. Just the intent. Just ask and open to receive and trust what comes through. And you may not have like words or a message that makes a lot of sense, but maybe it's more of a feeling sense that comes through.
Mm.
So just be open to what it is that's coming through for you and maybe hang out with the full moon because Spike is right there. And that means Arcturus isn't far. So it's probably
Yes.
going to be above or, as they move across the sky, it's going to shift around. But yeah, pretty cool. So as the moon is rising, this full moon is rising, Spica is right there with the full moon.
100%. Yeah. Um, all right.
So something else is to know is Spica is connected to Lady Justice. In in the tarot cards, the Justice. statues that we have around different places. And she's the one who holds the scales in line with her body, and she is also holding a sword. And I like to think of it as the sword of truth, that it's about restoring that balance and that justice. So she represents the astronomical equinox point or balance of day and night. When this tarot card was created around 1,000 years ago, when the sun was rising and setting with Spica at the September equinox. And that's when the tarot cards were created, and many of these statues and artwork and things were happening around that time. The constellations of the priestess and the scales are combined in the Justice tarot card. Spica is the star marking where Lady Justice holds the scales in her hand. And so she's holding that opportunity for creating greater balance in our world. And she's blindfolded, meaning impartial or without a preconceived notion of judgment, being willing to hear and listen to both sides of a case or a situation, which is something we're really missing, I think, in our world now. It's hard for us to sometimes listen, be open and be impartial and listen to both sides. So, how is this full moon with Spica assisting us in standing for a more just and equitable world where justice is valued and everyone is treated with equal respect? So important because it feels like that's not happening. And so, if we think about the Justice card emphasizing the necessity of adhering to honesty, striving for equity, and balancing all elements in our lives, that is, this full moon is very much carrying this energy and something that we can also be present with and tune into as we connect. Maybe you get to see the moon rise, or maybe you get to see the moon set, or maybe you see it while it's crossing the sky, and just tuning in from this perspective. So amazing. And I'm actually looking forward to being able to do that.
Yeah, it's really just extremely fascinating and moving and inspiring too. If you wonder, like, particularly America's fascination and maybe even the world's fascination with justice and all those for decades TV shows that dealt with justice, that dealt with fairness and and various incarnations of it. And so we're fascinated all those things. It means that there's a fascination from uh the world population to see what's really happening here. And so I think in part as we move into this time of Neptune and Saturn into Aries, that maybe that justice and this Libra full moon is maybe just you know really strongly highlighting that, hey, let's pay attention to this. This is really, really critical because think of particularly in American politics right now and in the justice system right now, where judges are being attacked and some are being like essentially bought off for political favors and so forth. Like, is that what's happening here and all of that? And are the justices or the judges and so forth, they're going to be able to create, are we going to be able to create a more balanced and true justice type of environment? That remains to be seen, but this is just an opportunity for us to tune into that.
I love how you
So
did that. Yeah, that's so good. And that I mean, even when our justice system is working better than it is right now, there's a lot of injustices that still happen.
yes,
So I guess for me, it's like, how do we really hold the space? And Aries would say, I'm here to restore the cosmic order. I'm here to restore cosmic justice. I'm here to do all that. So all that Aries energy that's opposing this full moon is wants to do that, wants to really bring us back into a place of maybe where we've never even been before, of actual justice, of having things be just and true and work for the greater reality. So that's my
yeah.
fingers crossed for.
I'm in total agreement there. Um, All right. So what do we got here? Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this
Um,
is showing the moon coming up over the horizon. Again, another version of that with the Corvus, the crow or the raven, and Crater, the cup. And Christopher Warnock wrote a book called The Fixed Star Sign and Constellation Magic. Fixed Star Sign and Constellation Magic. I want to say signs for some reason, but it's not that. Anyway, and there are
oh,
stories
hang on.
about. There's stories
We're
about
back.
how Apollo, who's the sun god taking the sun across the sky, is he gets tired and he's thirsty, so he sends his raven, sometimes referred to as a crow. Corvus is the name of that raven or crow, to fetch water in his cup. And that's the constellation of Crater. And I love, Eric, that you pointed out it could be also like the Grail cup. Um, and that's a whole other story we'll probably maybe dive into another time. But the raven got distracted waiting for fig trees to ripen the figs on a tree to ripen. So he brought back a water snake, Hydra. So you can also see Hydra goes right by this part of the sky as well,
Yep.
and along with the cup filled with water, and told Apollo that the Hydra had caused the delay. So he was placing blame somewhere else. Sound familiar? Seems like responsibility was like he didn't own it. He didn't say, I got distracted waiting for these figs to ripen or whatever. He tried to blame someone else. Apollo was not deceived. And he angrily threw the raven, the cup, and Hydra among the stars. So Hydra guards the water cup from the raven, and the raven can't sing, but can only screech and caw. So that's the story behind these. This comes from the from Greek myth, but we could make up a whole different story about that. But I think the point is part of what we're maybe inspired here is that it's like, how are we being truthful and honest? And how are we being just to ourselves and to the world? So, if we want justice in the world, are we being just? Are we actually showing up? Or are we trying to blame somebody else for something that happened that maybe is our responsibility?
Mm, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's great. Well said.
So, another opportunity
Um,
with this full moon. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right, let's look at the nakshatras and the
So,
lunar
so this is
mansions.
so I think most people watching this would probably know that the lunar mansions or the nakshatras are ways that the Vedic astrologers divided up the sky into so many degrees. Did I say here? It's how far the moon moves in a day. It would be considered a nakshatra. And I don't know where they made the starting point, but that was how they determined the nakshatras. So the moon moving over a 24-hour period. So they'd see the moon one night and then they'd see it the next night, and that would be that nakshatra. Because it takes the moon about 27.3 days to come back to a starting place. And that's why that point three, that's why there's sometimes they look at 28 nakshatras because over time, then it might not be. So you might have to add another nakshatra in there. But they have their own distinct characteristics, their special talents, and a deity that is connected to that particular nakshatra. And this image here is showing how the 27 nakshatras relate to the constellations, to the 12 constellations. And of course, they're looking at the constellations from the seasonal sign perspective. That would actually not be the way it is actually showing up here, but we'll just move past that.
Oh
But
yeah, I mean it's
yeah,
just a reference. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a reference to get this idea of how these 27 um, divisions of the sky overlay the 12 constellations of the sky.
And it looks, I mean, you could see about a lot of the signs slash constellations have two and a half you know, nakshatras. And some of them, like the Scorpio, has there's a little bit here in the third, but it's most of it is just two.
Just to
Um, but most of them have at least um, roughly 2.25 to 2.5. Um, and so that's part of what's coming through here. And Caitlin, you're gonna talk about the specific nakshatra that has to do with this full moon. In our online courses, we bring in the nakshatras in as far as like the constellations that we talk about in the different stars. So feel free to tune into on mystaralchemy.com for more information about that.
Yeah, beautiful.
But so
Yeah.
here's the nakshatras, and so an example of what we can look at here.
So this is number 14, and it it so from the seasonal sign perspective, now I know that from the sidereal perspective, they would have different they wouldn't call it Libra, they'd call it Virgo. They wouldn't call it Scorpio, they'd probably call it Libra. So there's a different there would be a different way that they do it from that perspective. But from a seasonal sign perspective, which is what we're tuning in here because this is a Libra full moon, it is 17 Libra and 31 minutes to 0 Scorpio and 50 minutes. There's 60 minutes in a degree, so it's almost 1 degree Scorpio. That and I tried to show where that would be in that constellation, like how far the moon, and the moon is kind of towards the center of that near Spica. So Spica is also in this nakshatra as well. And it's called Chitra, meaning sparkling or brilliant or jewel star or portrait. I don't know why that necessarily, but it is connected to artistic artists. So maybe the portrait would be like what the artist would be creating as a portrait. So its nature is that of an artist imagining and designing new forms, creating something beautiful out of your imagination, and being willing to cultivate the ability or learn to craft the image in 3D reality. So maybe our creative juices will get activated at this full moon. We might find ourselves creating. And I've had people many, many years ago tell me something about how I was very artistic, and I was like, I got F's or D's in art when I was in school, and I never thought of myself that way. But as I've gotten older, I found that there's different ways that I'm very creative. So we don't want to limit ourselves to, painting or uh, crafting or whatever we think art's supposed to be. It can come through many, many different forms. So the deity for this nakshatra is Vishwakarma, and he is the celestial architect, suggesting this is an area of the sky where we can create beauty out of chaos. Love that we brought it back to chaos. That okay, beauty out of chaos, because that's the purpose of chaos, is so that we can do these kinds of things. Because if we're not challenged, we're not going to change, and we need to change in order for us to grow and evolve. And so if there's chaos, that's going to maybe force that change to happen. And then this can further reveal the sciences of architecture and mechanics when we are open to connecting with them. So pretty cool nakshatra where this full moon is happening.
Yeah. Oh, this is like really confirming about how a lot of what we've been talking about and the creative energy. I mean, even the Sabian symbol, which has a lot to do with, kind of experimenting, creating a new form that wants to come through. And, when you're dealing with a butterfly, you're also dealing with the colors and the beauty and the patterns of all that just like shine through, and this transformation of a creature from a caterpillar to a butterfly and what it had to endure to get to that point is absolutely remarkable for life itself. And so
Or karma.
uh, Vishwakarma, thank you. I'll get it. Is this amazing deity for this? And so you can think of that as like layers. So when you're thinking of the full moon, all these interpretations you can look at as imagery that plays a role in the fullness of the actual experience of the full moon. And you can look at these symbols just like you could look at a painting and there's 1,000 words to describe it. You can also look at this and connect into that symbolism, connect into the energies that we're talking about here, and work with it yourself in your own way too. Uh,
Beautiful. So 23.2 degrees of is a nakshatra. So it's from that 17 and a half Libra to almost one Scorpio. If you have planets, angles, or nodes in that area of the sky, you have a personal connection to this nakshatra, in addition to the fact that the full moon is illuminating this part of the sky. So just something else to tune into.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Some really cool quotes here for Libra.
Yeah, so
Um,
um, maybe we can take turns with them. So we're going to wrap this up, but just this idea about how this is such strongly featuring relationships. So these are some thoughts
yes.
that we can complete with. And the first one is, I think it's Sonia Choquette. Genuine relationships depend first on a healthy relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. So I love that because it deals with this sense of like striving for wholeness within ourselves. And then when you're getting into a relationship that it's not there to quote complete you, but there to add value to the like another wholeness into with one other wholeness.
Yeah.
And together you have two whole individual beings that are co-creating together. And so you this it's right on. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced that, especially in my early life, a very, my first few relationships, you know, not quite healthy because I certainly wasn't had a much of a clue about what relationships really were about in my 20s. But that's what happens. That's how we learn. That's how we connect and co-create as we get to discover, those vulnerabilities within us and what wounds we need to heal. And then later on, we get to, there's no right or wrong way of doing all of this. We all have our own individual timelines. So some people, have that, they discover it early and some a little bit later. And it's okay. There's no race. You don't have to accomplish it. So this is a wonderful statement by Sonia here.
I love what you're saying too, because the idea that we can judge ourselves. I mean, I think I've done it. I'm sure you have too, Eric. Judging ourselves for
Yes.
the mistakes we've made, or I should have known better, or I could have this or that, or why, how have I recreated this kind of situation again in my life? And really challenging. So it's really not about judging, but about seeing it as a learning opportunity and how can we become more aware. I really appreciate that. So then this is from Steve Marable, and he says a healthy relationship is one in which love enriches you, not imprisons you.
There you go. Right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. As I
Oh
felt
man.
imprisoned in relationships, it's not fun. And now
Mm.
I feel freer to be me in the relationship that I'm in than I've ever felt in my whole life. So it does work if we do the work.
It does.
And
It
also
does.
think
It
about the
remi-
right timing, like the magical timing that brings that person in. Because you can have done the work and you're still maybe not there or feeling like you're there, but it might be a timing thing.
Right. There could be, yeah, some timing issues right there. There's a book by James Hollis that is called Gar the Eden Project. The In Search of the Magical Other is the subtitle. And in that book, James talks about relationships and finding your love and what is love and how you could probably write 100,000 pages about the concept of love and never arrive at a full definition of it. Um, but in that, he brings in a quote that I really love, and the quote is from Saint Augustine. And St. Augustine, when asked about love, he responded, "Love is allowing the other to be, quote, be, just be, and that's it." And it's like, yeah, exactly. That's it doesn't imprison you. It allows you to be free in yourself. And if you want to be free in yourself with another person in a healthy relationship, then amazing, amazing. Like what you and Peter. have out there?
It took me a little while to get there, but happy.
Yes, we all have our journeys around
Yeah.
that.
And it's doable. One of the things I just for people who are still feeling like they haven't gotten there yet, it can happen in the most unexpected, amazing ways. So just be open to that. And maybe this Libra full moon is an opportunity to really um, ask for what it is you want in relationship. Even if you're in a relationship and it's maybe not fulfilling in the way that you would like it to be, you can still ask. Because when we have intentions and we make those requests, the universe will uh, start stepping up to help us figure it out. And I made the request. It took a little while, and then somebody sent me this person to connect with. That was 19 years ago. I can't believe that much time has passed. So it can happen. So Mandy
Mm.
Hale says, a healthy relationship doesn't drag you down, it inspires you to do better. And when you have somebody that's there that's celebrating you, not trying to drag you down, not trying to make you be something you're not, as we've been talking about, that inspires. That's so inspiring. It's like, yeah, I really want to show up for this in the best way I possibly can.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you don't want anything to just take away from you or drain your energy in some way. I mean, obviously there are natural times in any kind of healthy relationship where your energy gets drained, but if it's like a constant theme in that space, then something's off, something's wrong, something needs to be faced in that relationship. So yes, a healthy relationship definitely inspires you to do better for sure. I'm with you.
And when you're inspired to do better, you're uplifting and inspiring the other person. And then it just kind of feeds that energy. Instead of being in a downward spiral of negativity, you go into an upward spiral of like celebration and joy. It's so great to have that experience. So these are the possibilities that we can tune into, ask for, celebrate if we already have, celebrate even more of what's possible during this Libra full moon. So, any last thoughts, Eric?
No, I think we've covered all the rich gambit of all of this for the Libra full moon.
Yay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And here's to us all having a better relationship with ourselves first and with each other and creating a better world as a result. So, thank you and bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.